I missed you last week. I was busy being dad to a young soccer player. So thank you very much for doing this again. What's going on?
Not a lot. I'm kind of with you that if I cannot put myself in the shoes of an NC State fan, but what I can acknowledge that the absence of division play, even if you're still playing Clemson every single year, has removed the roadblock that would be Clemson or, in 2012 or 2013, Florida State. And so, hey, if you've got to play Clemson, the best thing that you could hope for is that you get a rematch in the ACC championship game, because the rest of it sets up so that you can be, even with a loss to Clemson, the second best team in the ACC.
All right. There's a bunch of things I want to get to about this, and we'll get back to what 3-5-5 means, does. Did anybody get
3-5 or the 3-5-5? Are we talking Gary Patterson defense, or it can get really confusing.
3-5-5. We work from basically the blue line out. We work from the back line, then we go to the midfield, then we go to the forwards. Nobody plays a 3-5-5 anymore. First of all, that's illegal. But we'll get to the scheduling format in a second. We know that the Pac-12 just completely scrapped divisions this year. The ACC isn't doing that yet. Do we think that this is going to be the plan across the country?
Yes. I think that for the SEC, they are just going to hold tight until they get Texas and Oklahoma on board, and then they will take on a 3-6-6 rotation to be able to handle their 16-team conference. And as we look to the Big Ten to be able to be the next in line, remember, the Big 12 has no divisions. They already have a round-robin schedule. I don't expect they will go to division play, but we will slowly but surely see division play phase itself all the way out. My big takeaway from a national perspective is that the ACC has only committed to this through 2026.
Right.
2026, is that when the new college football playoff? Have we learned our lesson of scheduling out to 2036 when it's 2016? Have we learned our lesson of scheduling out 20 years in advance? And now we are just going to take this bite by bite. I heard Dennis mention earlier on the show that these could change, right? These are going to be your primary opponents, at least through this edition of the scheduling model. I think that cutting this off at 2026 is very sharp, because you want to adjust if you need to, if there's an entirely new college football landscape.
You should always give yourselves the flexibility to adjust. That's why scheduling these things out forever is never a good idea. If you had to stack the ACC this year, and obviously we're just guessing, but if you had to say this team will finish first, this team will finish second, who would be that team first, and who do you think that team would be second?
Clemson won. Is it based on conference schedule or based on...
You can base it on whatever it is Chip Patterson wants to base it on. You can base it on uniforms. Best uniforms. I don't care.
Clemson 1, NC State 2, Miami 3, and then when we get to 4, I think I take Pitt.
Okay.
But
what you're saying, if what you say is correct, and I tend to agree with you, then it would set up the possibility in the future, just not now, for Clemson and NC State to have a rematch, a Textile Bowl rematch at the ACC championship game if this were next year as opposed to this upcoming year. And I think that would be better. So the follow-up to that, because I heard the Joes talking about this with Bubba Cunningham yesterday, would this be better or worse for getting multiple teams into even a slightly expanded college football playoff?
This is going to be better because it's going to provide a quality opponent that if you are on the cutting board, this is going to do so much more than putting 62 on the board against Virginia. This is going to do so much more than underwhelming against a Georgia Tech or whoever comes out of the Coastal Division. And I apologize because I understand that the Coastal Division does hold the most recent ACC championship. Panthers getting it done.
Yes.
Traditionally, from 2009 until 2021, it was a Florida State or a Clemson Atlantic Division winner that we had. So I'm mostly looking at this through the Clemson FSU viewpoint, but at the same time, I can say that those matchups felt like don't screw it up.
Right.
It never felt like it was the kind of opponent on Conference Championship Saturday, aside from, when they did go with one division, it was Clemson and Notre Dame. And guess what? They both made the college football playoff.
They did, but Notre Dame, I believe, was undefeated right at the time. Yes. So here's where I think it actually, because what I said earlier was it depends on the season whether or not it would be good or not. A 10-2 NC State team that takes a third loss in the conference championship game is probably not getting in. Is the way I look at it. But a 10-2 state team that misses out on a conference championship game might get in. So I just think it depends on the season. I think it's a neutral. I don't think it benefits you. It can, but I think it could also hurt you. So I think it ultimately is a neutral for me as to whether or not it helps you get an extra team in the playoff.
I think it guarantees your champion gets in. I think providing a quality opponent for the conference championship, and the fact that you mentioned the 2-loss, 3-loss scenario. If we are truly going by winning percentage, there is a potential that there could be a team that goes 1-3 in the non-con, but then gets white hot in conference play, wins all those games, and we have a 3-loss team in the conference championship. We are far less likely with no divisions to have conference championship contenders that have 3, 4, even 5 losses. I mean, was it Georgia Tech went 7-7 a couple years ago,
right?
Thanks to its own record and how it ended up losing in the conference championship game and losing its bowl game after that. I think that it is more likely that your champion is going to be in the college football playoff. We mentioned the expected expansion of the college football playoff. If it's a close game, if both teams are quality, then you are going to have a result that should provide not just your champion, but also your runner-up a decent shot to be able to go play in the playoffs.
Chip Patterson, as always, on Wednesdays. All right, so we now have the 3 of the 3-5-5. So these are, I think Dennis called them primary opponents. So you'll play these teams every year. Is there a team there that caught a break? Is there a team there that got hosed for whatever reason that you can see?
Pitt. I think that Pitt getting Boston College, Syracuse, and Virginia Tech is favorable. Virginia Tech could be a monster. We're looking at Virginia Tech as it is currently in turmoil under Justin Fuente, and I believe that Brent Pry, a Virginia native, who basically took down the Justin Fuente regime by recruiting all the best players out of Virginia and bringing them up to Penn State.
Right.
I mean, I was talking with our friend Will Brinson about this yesterday. Like, the easiest athletic director move ever is like, hey, what happened with Virginia Tech football? They weren't doing good on the recruiting trail. Players were leaving the state. Where were they going? Penn State. Okay, let's go get the recruiter who is in charge of Virginia, and let's stop all these players from leaving. Right. So that could turn a little bit, but on its face, I had really highlighted Pitt, Boston College, Syracuse, Virginia Tech. I understand that we, in a lot of cases here, we're putting some of the old Big East foes back together, but I thought that was a favorable draw. The thing that made me laugh the hardest is actually on the Virginia Tech side, because I said, what is the history between Virginia Tech and Wake Forest? What in the world outside of, and then it came to me. I don't know if you've mentioned it, but it's Frank Beamer. Yep. 2 arms in the air and a 0-0 on that scoreboard. But they're also, campuses are 90 minutes apart, and Virginia Tech does travel. That was it's not good for Wake Forest to say we're excited that one of our primary opponents will travel to come, but it's good for Winston-Salem hotels. It's good for the gate. It's good for the concessions. So I kind of saw that one as one of the few truly geographic moves. I was surprised, speaking of geographic, that Florida State did not get Georgia Tech, as Georgia Tech is the closest campus in the ACC from Tallahassee. So that one was a little bit of a shocker, especially when you're trading them out for Syracuse. But, other than that, I think that everybody got a decent, across your 3, you're going to have 1 or 2 that you're excited about and 1 that might not make as much sense for the most part.
I think for just to kind of peel that back, I think they probably gave Georgia Tech the break there because Tech has Clemson and Louisville as their other 2. So to give them, theoretically, Louisville should be a top half of the league football program. We know where Clemson is, and Florida State should be a top like no worse than third.
Right? If you do that, then you're putting them against three programs that, like, you are Georgia Tech, already fighting an uphill battle when it comes to big-time college football, and you are handing them programs that are built to win at a high level, or at least willing to spend it, in Clemson, Florida State, and NI Louisville.
Yeah, the only way Georgia Tech should be good is because they are based in a hotbed of high school football. It's a great environment for college football in the state, for high school football rather in the state. But there are so many academic requirements that are so difficult for Georgia Tech, and you're competing, with all the other SEC and ACC schools that recruit that area. It's just hard. I just don't know how they're going to do it. So I kind of think they were throwing Georgia Tech a bone. But Florida State's already got Clemson. We think Miami should be good too. So, and then they throw Syracuse at them. And the days of Syracuse being good in football, I think, are just long gone. It's just
for a long time.
Yeah, I think they're long gone. I mean, it's unfortunate. I'm significantly older than Chip Patterson. People, I might be 40 years older than Chip Patterson for all I know. I grew up in an era. Why are you laughing?
40?
I just made up a number.
Don't let the youthful exuberance and the high-pitched voice fool you.
But I grew up in an era, and it's actually it was after it was still going on when I moved here in '98, where Syracuse was good. Going back to the Don McPherson as a quarterback era, Dick McPherson as the head coach, Donovan McNabb was obviously a pretty good football player at Syracuse. They were good for a while, but they just can't be good anymore today. There's just not enough of the talent is staying in the North. Syracuse as a place has been basically forgotten by enough. I know they were good a few years ago, but it was a mirage. And we all knew it was a mirage. I think it's just going to be really tough. I just think
it's still a basketball school, though, right? I mean, shouldn't we treat them with the same?
But it used to be year in and year out a good football program. Right. I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and Syracuse was good in football because the Northeast actually played good football. Boston College was routinely good. Penn State was routinely good. Those schools all recruited in the same general areas, and it was before big money and all of this. Remember there was a time where the ACC paid out more money than the SEC. That also was during the lifespan of my time on radio in Raleigh, North Carolina. Is there something you would have done different with 3-5-5 and the way they've done it?
No, I think ultimately the real balance of this scheduling model is the fact that you're not going to have these drastic swings in terms of the conference schedule on a year-to-year basis because you're going to play everybody. Right. Like 5 and 5, it pretty much guarantees that you're just going to face a wide swath. It's going to be changing out. I really like the idea that we have changed the math on who has the easiest and toughest schedules. I just turned in a feature for CBS Sports. It'll be posted here, by mid-afternoon, ranking the toughest schedules in the ACC. And it is such a simple activity to start because you just look at the cross-division opponents. Everyone's going to play the same division opponents, but the cross-division opponents, who avoids Clemson and NC State? Your schedule's easier. Who draws Clemson and also has Notre Dame rotating in on the schedule? Your schedule's harder. And I think that this will at least create a lot more diversity where it will be much less easy to understand looking at the entire conference who has the easier and tougher schedules because it'll be so much more diverse without the monotony of division play.